So this happened about 8 months ago, and my family is still dealing with the fallout. I honestly don't know if I did the right thing, or if I'm a complete jerk, so I'm turning to you lovely people of Reddit for judgment. Some background. I'm 28F, and I have an older sister, Emma, who's 32. Growing up, Emma was always the golden child, straight A's, perfect boyfriend, went to law school, married her college sweetheart David right after graduation. They have 2 kids, 7M and 5F, and from the outside, they look like they had it all figured out. Beautiful house, successful careers, cute family photos on social media. You know the type. I'm a freelance photographer, so I'm usually the one taking pictures at family events. At our annual family reunion last summer, I was doing my usual thing, taking candids, group shots, all that. Emma and David seemed normal, maybe a little distant, but I figured they were just tired from wrangling the kids. Here's where it gets complicated. I was uploading the photos later that week when I noticed something weird in one of the background shots. David was standing off to the side talking on his phone, and I could clearly see his screen. He had what looked like a dating app open, and he was actively messaging someone. I zoomed in, I know, but curiosity killed the cat, and could see part of a conversation where he was making plans to meet up with someone called Sarah, and the messages were, let's just say, not appropriate for a married man. I sat on this information for weeks. I kept going back and forth. Was it my place to say anything? Maybe I was seeing things wrong. But the more I looked at the photo, the clearer it became that David was definitely cheating on my sister. Finally, I decided I had to tell Emma. I couldn't live with myself knowing what I knew and watching her post happy family photos on Instagram like everything was perfect. I called Emma and asked if we could meet for coffee. When we met up, I showed her the photo. Her reaction was not what I expected. She went completely silent for like 5 minutes, just staring at the photo. Then she started crying. But not the kind of crying you'd expect from someone who just found out their husband was cheating. It was more like relief crying. Turns out, Emma had suspected something was going on for months. David had been distant, secretive about his phone, working late more often, all the classic signs. But whenever she tried to bring it up, he'd gaslight her and make her feel like she was being paranoid and controlling. Having actual proof validated everything she'd been feeling. Here's where I might be the asshole. Emma asked me not to tell anyone else in the family until she figured out what to do. She wanted to confront David first and maybe try counseling. I agreed. But then, at my cousin's birthday party 2 weeks later, my uncle, Rick, started going on about how David was such a great guy and how Emma was so lucky to have found a man like that. Other family members joined in, talking about what a perfect couple they were and how they were relationship goals. I just snapped. I couldn't sit there and listen to everyone praise this cheating piece of garbage. So I said, yeah, David's such a great guy. That's why he's on dating apps messaging other women. The whole table went silent. Emma turned white as a sheet. David started stuttering and denying everything. I pulled out my phone and showed everyone the photo. Chaos ensued. David stormed out. Emma was mortified. My mom was furious with me for airing dirty laundry in public. Half the family was thanking me for exposing the truth. The other half was pissed at me for causing drama at what was supposed to be a fun family celebration. Emma barely spoke to me for weeks afterward. She said I had no right to make that decision for her and that I'd humiliated her in front of everyone. She said she was planning to handle it privately and I'd ruined any chance of working things out with David. But here's the thing, other family members started reaching out to me privately. Turns out, several people had their own suspicions about David but didn't want to say anything without proof. My cousin, Jake, told me he'd seen David at a restaurant with another woman a few months earlier, but convinced himself it must have been work-related. Now Emma and David are separated and in the middle of divorce proceedings. Emma's lawyer says the photo evidence is really helpful for the custody and asset division stuff. Emma has started talking to me again and even thanked me, saying that she probably would have stayed in denial for years if I hadn't forced the issue. But I still feel terrible about how it all went down. I feel like I could have handled it better, maybe given Emma more time to deal with it on her own terms. My mom still thinks I was completely out of line, and that family business should stay private. Some additional context that might be relevant. The photo was super clear. There was no ambiguity about what David was doing. Emma and David had been together for 12 years, married for 8. Emma is financially stable on her own. She's a successful lawyer, so it's not like she was trapped. David had been acting sketchy for months before I took the photo. Our family is generally pretty close, and we usually support each other through difficult times. I keep going back and forth on whether I did the right thing. On one hand, Emma deserved to know the truth, and it ultimately helped her get out of a bad situation. On the other hand, I totally violated her wishes about keeping it private and humiliated her in front of our entire family. So Reddit, Am I in the wrong for exposing my sister's cheating husband at a family gathering, even though she asked me to keep it quiet? Edit. A lot of people are asking why I didn't just show the photo to Emma privately and let her handle it from there. I did do that initially. That's how she found out. The problem came later when I couldn't keep my mouth shut at the family party. I probably should have just excused myself from the conversation instead of blowing everything up. Edit 2, for those questioning the photo quality. I'm a professional photographer with a high-end camera, and I was standing pretty close when I took the shot. The phone screen was clearly visible, and I could make out enough of the conversation to know what was going on. I'm not going to post the actual photo for obvious privacy reasons, but I showed it to several family members, and they all agreed it was pretty damning evidence. Update, 2 months later. Hey Reddit, I thought I'd give you all an update on the situation since so many of you were invested in what happened. First off, thank you to everyone who took the time to respond to my original post. Reading through all your comments really helped me process everything that happened. The general consensus seemed to be not in the wrong, which honestly made me feel a lot better about the whole situation. So here's what's happened since. Emma and I have fully reconciled. It took some time and a few difficult conversations, but she eventually told me that while she was hurt by how everything went down, she's grateful that I forced her hand. She said she probably would have spent years trying to fix her marriage and making excuses for David's behavior if I hadn't exposed him publicly. The divorce proceedings are moving along. Emma's lawyer says having the photo evidence has been incredibly helpful, especially since David initially tried to deny the affair and claim Emma was being unreasonable. Apparently, he's been a lot more cooperative since the photo came to light. Speaking of David, the cheating was way worse than any of us realized. After Emma confronted him with the evidence, she hired a private investigator. I know, very dramatic, but her lawyer recommended it. Turns out David had been having affairs for at least 2 years, possibly longer. Multiple women, some ongoing relationships, some one-night stands. He'd been using their joint credit card to pay for hotels, dinners, even gifts for these other women. Emma had no idea because he handled most of their finances. The woman from the dating app messages, Sarah, actually reached out to Emma directly after everything came out. She had no idea David was married. He told her he was divorced and living alone. When she found out the truth, she immediately cut contact with him and felt terrible about the whole situation. She even offered to provide testimony for the divorce proceedings if needed. Emma is doing surprisingly well, all things considered. She's been going to therapy, both individual and with the kids, and says she feels like a huge weight has been lifted off her shoulders. The kids are adjusting. It's been hard on them, but they're resilient, and Emma's being very honest with them in age-appropriate ways about what happened. As for David, he's moved in with his parents temporarily and has been pretty much ostracized by our entire extended family. My uncle Jake, who had initially been angry with me, actually apologized and said he'd actually been suspicious about David for a while. Apparently David had been acting weird at family gatherings, being secretive about his phone, and making excuses to leave early. Jake said he never would have said anything without proof, but my photos confirmed what he'd been wondering about. Update 2 to 5 months later. Holy crap, you guys. I never expected this post to blow up like it did, and I definitely didn't expect the updates I'm about to share. Emma's divorce was finalized 2 weeks ago. It moved surprisingly quickly because it ended up being pretty straightforward. David didn't contest anything. Turns out when you have photographic evidence of infidelity and financial fraud, plus a guilty conscience, you don't really have much to fight with. Emma got primary custody of the kids. David gets them every other weekend and 1 evening per week. He's paying both child support and alimony, and Emma got to keep the house. She also got half of his retirement accounts, and he had to pay back all the money he'd spent on his affairs from their joint accounts. Her lawyer was ruthless, and I'm here for it. But here's the plot twist none of us saw coming. Emma is thriving. Like, I haven't seen my sister this happy in years. She got a promotion at work. She's been dating someone new, a really nice guy she met through a mutual friend, and she started taking art classes again, something she gave up years ago when David said it was impractical. The kids are doing great too. They're in counseling and seem much happier now that they're not constantly walking on eggshells around their parents' tense relationship. Emma told me that her 7-year-old said he likes it better now because mommy smiles more. As for David, karma came for him hard. Turns out his affairs weren't as secret as he thought, and word got around his workplace. His law firm has a strict morality clause, and while they couldn't fire him for cheating on his wife, they could, and did, fire him for using company resources for personal matters. Apparently, he'd been using his work phone and computer for his dating apps and to coordinate his affairs. He's been struggling to find new work because our legal community is pretty small and word travels fast. Oh, and Sarah, the woman from the dating app, actually became friends with Emma. They bonded over being victims of David's lies, and Sarah has been a great support system for Emma throughout the divorce process. It's honestly kind of beautiful how they turned David's betrayal into a genuine friendship. As for me, this whole experience actually helped my photography business. Word spread about how I handled the situation discreetly, professionally, but ultimately doing the right thing. And I've gotten several referrals from people who want a photographer they can trust to be professional and discreet during their important moments. Who knew? I've booked 3 weddings for next year and just got hired to do photos for a local restaurant's new menu. Oh, and Jake got engaged to his girlfriend last month. Guess who's doing their engagement photos? This guy. Well, this gal. You know what I mean. Thanks to everyone who supported me through this whole mess. Sometimes doing the right thing is messy and complicated, but it's still the right thing.